Okay, so this is quiz 5, part 1. I'm going to go over half of the problems in this video and the other half in part 2. So number 1, solve the system of equations. Okay, so first I have to look at my equations, and I have to decide whether this is graphing, elimination, or substitution. Since both of my equations say y equals, it would be very easy for me to simply graph these. Rather than graph them by hand, however, I'm going to use my calculator because that's really fast. So all I have to do is go to y equals, and in y equals I type in both of my equations. I have 2/3 x plus 2 and 7/3 x minus 3. Notice how I put the fractions in parentheses. And then I'm going to click second, trace. Anytime I'm looking for a solution of a system of equations, I'm looking at their intersection, so number 5. And then I'm going to click enter 3 times until the calculator tells me the intersection is 3, 4. So my answer is 3, 4. Number 2. Which of the following describes or is a solution to this inequality? And this is a very easy problem. There's 2 ways that you can do this. You can either solve that inequality for y, graph it, and then see if the point is in the shaded region of the inequality or not. Or you can also determine if this is a solution, if a point is a solution, simply by plugging that point into the inequality and testing it out. So we're going to test out our points. I'm going to test out A, which is 4, 4. I know 4 is an x value, and I know the other 4 represents a y value. So when I plug in those 4's for my x and my y, I will end up with 4 parentheses 4 minus 2 parentheses 4 is greater than 8. 4 times 4 is 16. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8 is greater than 8. 16 minus 8 is 8, and 8 is not greater than 8, so A is not a solution. C, my 3 represents my x value and my 1 represents the y value. So I'm going to have 4 parentheses 3 minus 2 parentheses 1 is greater than 8. 4 times 3 is 12. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, is greater than 8. 12 minus 2 is 10, and 10 is indeed greater than 8. So my solution is C, 3, 1. Number 3, solve the system of equations. Okay, so I'm looking at the equations, and I have to determine, is it graphing? No, because I don't have equations that say y equals. Is it substitution? No, because I don't have x equals something or y equals something. Instead, if I look at these equations, I can see that my x's and my y's kind of line up, and so do my numbers. So this equation lends itself to elimination. But in order to eliminate, I need to either get rid of my x's or get rid of my y's. And if I look at my 2 equations, I'm not getting rid of my x's. Negative 6 and positive 5 x are not opposites. They're not going to cancel out. And negative 12y and positive 6y are also not going to cancel each other out. So in order to use elimination, I have to modify one of my equations a little bit. So I know 12 and 6 are multiples of each other. So I'm going to work with the y's. I'm going to try to get rid of the y's. On the top equation, I have a negative 12y. The opposite of negative 12y is positive 12y. So how can I get a positive 12 from a positive 6? Well, if I just multiply 6 times 2, I would get 12. And that would help me cancel out the y's. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 2. And my new equation is going to turn out to be 10x, 2 times 6 is 12, plus 12y equals 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. So I have my new equation, and the first equation stays exactly the same. I don't need to change anything on there. So I'm just simply going to rewrite it underneath the second equation. And now I can do elimination. Remember, when you eliminate, you're always adding things together. 10x minus 6x is 4x. And 12y plus negative 12y cancel each other out. They're gone. They got eliminated. Negative 18 plus 30 is 12. And to get that x by itself, I divide by 4. So x equals 3 is half of my answer. Now I need to figure out what the y is. To figure out what the y is, I pick either the first equation or the second equation. I'm going to go with the second equation because the numbers are smaller. I have 5x plus 6y equals negative 9. And all I'm going to do is plug in what I know. I know x equals 3. So I have 5 parentheses 3 plus 6y equals negative 9. I'm solving for y, so I draw my line. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 6y equals negative 9. To get that y by itself, I'm going to move the 15 over. And I have 6y equals negative 9. Minus 15 is negative 24. To get that y by itself, I divide by 6. And so I have y equals negative 4. So the solution to this problem is x equals 3 and y equals negative 4. Number 4. Jane purchased X cans of paint at $2 each and Y packs of markers at $4 each. She spent less than $20, not including tax. Which point represents a reasonable number of cans of paint and packs of markers that Jane purchased? So, first of all, we need to dissect our problem. We need to figure out how to write either an equation or an inequality out of this. So let's go back. Jane purchased X cans of paints at $2 each. How can I translate that? Well, remember, each is the same thing as per. Per indicates multiplication, so X cans of paint at $2 each is the same thing as saying 2x. And means plus. Y packs of markers at $4 each. That is the exact same thing as 4y, because each could be the same thing as per. Per would indicate multiplication. She spent less than $20, so this has to be less than $20. And I have my inequality. Now, just like with number 1, to figure out if a point is a solution to an inequality, all you do is take that x value and the y value in that point and plug them in. So for answer choice A, x is 5, y is 3, so I plug in the 5 for the x, and I plug in the 3 for the y. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 times 3 is 12. 10 plus 12 is 22. Is 22 less than 20? No, so A is not the answer. And then I'm going to do the same thing with x is 1 and y is 5. So I have 2 parentheses 1 plus 4 parentheses 5 is less than 20. 2 times 1 is 2. 4 times 5 is 20. That's less than 20. So I end up with 22 is less than 20, which is also not true. So now I'm going to try out answer choice B. I'm going to plug in the 2 for the x, the 3 for the y. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 4 times 3 is 12. 4 plus 12 is 16. Is 16 less than 20? Yes. So my answer is B. Okay, so number 5, solve the system of equations. I look at my equations. This is not graphing because I don't have two equations that say y equals. This is not elimination because my x's and my y's are not lined up. This is going to be substitution. Y is already solved for something, so I know y equals negative 3x plus 8 because they equal each other. Anywhere I see a y, I can put in a negative 3x plus 8. So I'm going to use that fact in the first equation. I have 8x plus 3, big parentheses, equals 22. And inside those parentheses, I'm going to plug in what I know y is, which is negative 3x plus 8. I have to distribute that 3 across because it's outside of the parentheses. So I end up with 8x. 3 times negative 3x is negative 9x. 3 times 8 is positive 24, equals 22. 8x minus 9x is negative x, plus 24 equals 22. Now remember, the reason I combine these is because they're like terms. So all I did after I distributed was combine my like terms. My goal is to get the x on one side by itself and the numbers on the other side. So I need to move this 24 over, so minus 24 to both sides. I end up with negative x equals negative 2. Right now I have an invisible negative 1 in front of my x, so I'm going to divide by negative 1. And x equals positive 2. Now I need to figure out what the x is, what the y is. So I'm going to use the second equation. Remember, you can pick either the first equation or the second equation to plug in what you know, but I'm going to go with the second one because it's already solved for y. Y equals negative 3, my x is 2, plus 8, so y equals negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, plus 8, so that means y equals 2. So my answer is x equals 2 and y equals 2.